Welcome to a video series about evaluating programs. If you missed it, we've already gone through videos 1, 2, and 3. Go back to our channel and check them out. Now we're on video 4, how to analyze and use data for program benefit. Hit subscribe and get notified for video 5, how to face the first time evaluation nerves. Well, let's get started. In our previous videos, we covered quantitative, qualitative, and observational questions, their benefits, and how and when to use them. Now, let's talk about how to interpret these results. As you remember from video 2, scaling questions ask participants to rate statements or feelings on a numbered scale. For example, Likert scale questions ask participants to evaluate how much they agree or disagree with the statement. Because these answers are correlated to a number, we can use simple math to evaluate a program's impact. By adding participants' numerical answers together and then dividing it by the number of participants, you receive the average. This number represents the average participant's experience. Which scale you use influences your desired outcomes. For example, if you use a scale measuring how the program influenced positive mood, you'll want these averages to be high. But if you use a scale to measure how the program influenced negative mood, you'll want these averages to be low. Then, depending on what the averages actually are, is where you'll draw your conclusions. This is similar for the pre- and post-program surveys we covered in video 3. Pre-program surveys establish the baseline, and the post-program survey will demonstrate how the program impacted that baseline. For example, if you ask participants how much the program positively influenced their mood, your desired outcome is that the average rating will go up from baseline. But if you use a scale to measure how the program negatively influenced mood, you'll want the average rating to go down or decrease from baseline to post-survey. We went more in depth on how to group qualitative questions from video 2. To recap, first, look at all the participant answers and find the common themes. Then, create these themes into overarching categories. Next, let's take these groups and see how many answers are in each one of them. If there's not a lot of answers in one category, like less than a third of the participants' answers, still try and take the feedback given, but maybe not draw any large conclusions off of this. After all, every individual answer is still important. If there are a lot of answers in one category, there are two options. One, if the category is specific, facilitators can draw a conclusion based on these answers. Two, facilitators can break this category up into subcategories and then draw conclusions. For example, in video 2, we used the category early time as an example. Either good or bad answers regarding the early time of the program could be used. So, if a program used this category and had a lot of answers, they could create subcategories. For example, positive feedback for how early the time was, negative feedback for how early the time was, or just mentioning that the time was early in general. Then, facilitators can draw conclusions based on how many answers are in each of these categories. In video 2, we introduced a method to track observational data via a table. This table listed all of the data points. For example, with observational data sheets, count how many times your action items happened for each separate participant group, and divide that number by the number of total sessions that each action item could have happened. This will provide a percentage. Or take a look at each separate participant and count how many times the action items happened progressively over the course of the program. If the action items either happened a majority of the time out of the sessions, or if the action items continued to increase over time, then it can be concluded that the program achieved its intended effect correlated with these action items. It should be acknowledged from the beginning that the program may or may not have its intended effect or desired outcomes. If the results interpreted from the analysis align with the program's desired outcomes, that's great. If it doesn't, this information is still valuable and can still help benefit the program. These results can reveal where the program was missing the mark, and then facilitators can draw conclusions on how to improve upon the program. The same applies when results are a bit all over the place. Now that you have the results from your analysis, we have to think about how you want to format and disperse these results. Eventually, you'll be sharing your results with facilitators, funders, strategic partners, and the broader public. There are a number of ways to deliver these results to stakeholders. We'll review the most popular now and then dive into how to format the different types of results. First is a physical program report. Physical program reports are distributed digitally and/or in a printed format. You can create them in a number of computer programs like Word, Canva, PowerPoint, or Pages. The benefits to a physical program report are that it is easy to distribute and speak to with people like funders and legislators. The risks to this format is that people often skim the material that's in front of them and easily overlook significant information. To avoid this, use design elements such as call-out boxes, easy-to-read tables, graphics, and larger text to draw attention to your more impactful results. You could also format program reports in the form of videos. This could look like someone talking on Zoom or forming a presentation through a program like PowerPoint or Loom while recording their computer screen. There are several benefits of creating video program reports. The first is that video is how people are consuming content right now, such as social media. Videos can be perceived as more concise and digestible compared to a physical program report that can sometimes come off as overwhelming. Lastly, the link to your video can be sent out directly to your intended audience via email, and you can post a link to your digital platforms to help reach an even broader audience. The risks to video program reports are that people get a lot of emails a day, and your report could potentially get lost in those inboxes. Try marking your email as important or make the subject of your email an attention grabber using one of your more impressive results or by pulling on people's heartstrings by sharing the purpose of your program. Now, let's talk about how to format your quantitative results. First, if you choose to do a pre-post study, form a 3-column table with as many rows as questions plus one extra for your labels. In the top row from left to right, label your table with questions, baseline survey average, and post-survey average. Now, list your questions in the order you asked them on your survey down the question column. Then take your averages from your baseline survey and align them with the questions they go with. This will go in the baseline survey average column. Lastly, do the same thing with the averages from post-survey. We like to have the results side by side like this so the audience can see the direct impact from baseline to post-survey. If some questions had a more significant difference you'd like to highlight, you can bold or highlight these columns to draw more attention to them. If you only surveyed at the end of the program, make a 2-column table and label it from left to right with questions and post-survey averages. Then, put the questions in the question column and the correlating averages from these questions in the post-survey average column. If you want to make the conclusions easier to understand, try and write a small summary of the results either above or below the tables. Next, let's go over how to format qualitative questions. In video 2, we talked about grouping qualitative questions into broader categories as a way to organize this data. If you chose to do this, you'll want to list those categories into separate boxes and label them with what the category is and how the evaluation defined that answers will go into it. Then, you'll put the relevant participant answers that you grouped into these categories into their now corresponding boxes. If you chose to not categorize the qualitative questions, then put the individual qualitative questions you asked in separate boxes and put all answers to each question in each corresponding box. You'll also want to write a small summary of the conclusions you drew from these questions, either above or below each box. Lastly, let's talk about how to format observational data. First, create a 3-column table and label from left to right in the first row action items, number of times action items were completed, and then the total number of sessions. You'll then want to put the action items you chose in the action item column and the corresponding amount of times they happened in the actions completed column. Then, you'll want to put the total number of sessions that the action item could have been completed in the final column. Lastly, you'll want to write a small paragraph about the conclusions drawn from this evaluation. This is where you'll put if the action items happened continuously or increased over time, and have the opportunity to highlight more impactful results. So now that we have the results and they're formatted in a way that fits your intended audience, let's talk about the benefits to evaluating your program. The first is funding opportunities. Grants geared towards the purpose of your specific program can be found on websites like the Foundation Center, GuideStar, Grants.gov, and many other options. These websites listed have filter and search options so you can make sure that the grant fits the program. Who doesn't like to receive more funding? Next is to improve upon the program. By evaluating the program, we get valuable information on what changes to make for the program to continue in a more effective and successful way to achieve its desired outcomes. Lastly is for the benefits of the participant. This goes along with improving the program because by evaluating and incorporating participant perspective, you will likely make the program more enjoyable and impactful for future participants. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for following along. This video would not be possible without the funding from the NextFifty Initiative and was produced by the University of Denver's Knoebel Institute for Healthy Aging in collaboration with LinkAGES. My name is Hannah Decker, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Denver Graduate School of Social Work. And I hope to see you next time at Video 5, How to Face the First-Time Evaluation Nerves. And don't forget to subscribe to be alerted for new videos.